Assassin's Creed 1, the beginning of all of this. And love it or hate it, the Assassin's Creed series wouldn't be what it is if it weren't for the groundwork and foundation this game laid out. Assassin's Creed was released in 2007, but today I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the game in 2021 and let you guys know how the game holds up nearly 14 years later. Also, before we get the video started, only 4% of you who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. It's free and you can always change your mind later. Anyway, back to the review. Assassin's Creed may be the first game of the series, but it's not the earliest. Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla take place before AC1. Origins being the origin of the Assassin's Creed, Valhalla being the Viking game that is vaguely connected, and Odyssey being the... well, let's not talk about that. This game takes place during the Third Crusade in the year 1191. The main protagonist is the legendary Altair, an arrogant and brash assassin who constantly disobeys and questions authority. Altair is personally one of my favorite protagonists in the series. Part of it may be that he was the first one and is very nostalgic for me, but he also has a very great arc and it's even better in Assassin's Creed Revelations. Admittedly, the voice work may be a little flat and somehow this guy has managed to have an American accent.
For him perhaps, though not I fear for you.
But other than that, I think Altair is a great character to build the series off of and perfectly represents what an assassin is. He's not a demigod and he's not a Norse god, he's just an assassin. You never see his full face, he hides in plain sight, kills in the name of the Brotherhood and free will, and has incredible investigative skills. This man has absolutely no weakness. Are you kidding me? He can't swim? What, they didn't teach you that in assassin school? The other protagonist of the game is Desmond, who is the focal point of the modern day storyline, and although the modern day isn't very prevalent in the first game, I still really enjoy the mystery of it all, and you slowly start to piece together where Desmond is and why Abstergo is holding him captive. The main goal of the story is very simple. Altair must kill 9 men and protect the secret of the Apple of Eden, and while the villains or main plot isn't too memorable, there's a few twists and turns, and the ending is one I will never forget. The combat in Assassin's Creed is clearly not the most refined or fleshed out combat system. All you really have to do is counterattack, and there's not a whole lot to do with it, and it can feel very repetitive and boring. I do appreciate it and still prefer it to the embarrassment we must suffer through today, but the combat is definitely improved after AC1, and in my opinion it reaches its peak in AC3 and AC4. The stealth is quite similar in the sense that it's still a lot of fun and feels really cool, but is definitely improved in other games, and the detection system is really bad, especially since you have to go into a hiding spot after being detected. Otherwise the enemies will find you no matter where you run off to, which is pretty frustrating and time consuming. Fools, do you know who I am? Oh, come on! The parkour and movement in this game is very clunky and it can be really hard to do effectively since you get stuck and accidentally jump on just about everything. No, Altair, stop it. Altair, no. Bad assassin, no! This game's movement is a lot more complicated and doesn't hold your hand like in the newer titles. I mean, you even gotta shove these fools out of the way or you'll stumble and fall. It requires a lot more skill, which I appreciate, and it would be fantastic if it weren't for Altair always disobeying my commands like I'm Al-Mualim. The mission structure has to be my biggest negative and flaw with the game, and it's really where its age shows. Throughout the entirety of the game, you are doing the exact same thing. Go to stupid mentor Al-Mualim, he tells me to kill evil bad guy, I go to city and do the same 4 investigations, which are interrogations, pickpocketing, challenges, and eavesdropping. Then I can finally kill bad guy, then cradle bad guy like baby, then go back to stupid Al-Mualim and complain, and then he tells me to shut up and go kill another bad guy. And you have to do this 9 times, with the only difference being a few different cities. And the reason why the bad guy is just the scummiest person on earth and deserves to die.
Anything for them? Yes. Yes, of course. Then join them.
I like the concept of infiltrating a city, investigating, and then assassinating a target, but after doing the same thing for hours, it gets really old and it makes it hard to play the game in long sittings without getting bored. The different cities and locations you get to infiltrate are cool and make for good assassin's playgrounds. Lots of closely knit buildings and large crowds and narrow streets to blend in with. And I like how the civilians and guards are kind of suspicious of you and start to become more aware of you as you progress through the game and kill people. The general layout of each city is practically the same, and really the only difference between them is the color filter to try and make it feel like they are different. Traveling to each city is extremely boring with nothing to do, and I'm so thankful you get to fast travel later in the game. Not to mention you have to battle the real villain of Assassin's Creed, the loading screens, the true mastermind of video games. Now for a game from 2007, I think the graphics hold up surprisingly well, and they obviously are nowhere close to on par with the new games, but if you're seriously considering going back to play this game, then graphics really shouldn't be a problem for you, and pretty much any computer or console can run this game. So if all you've got is a 2009 Dell laptop, well actually, it probably can't run this game, but I think you get the point. In terms of bugs, there's still quite a bit, and it's usually not too game breaking, but the game is far from perfectly polished, and it's likely either going to be really funny bugs or minor annoyances that you're just gonna have to deal with. And there are some times where the game's age can really show, like reused face models, voices, and voice lines, and the colors look pretty washed, but I guess that's what you get from playing a game from the good old days. Assassin's Creed certainly isn't the best Assassin's Creed game ever made, yet it's arguably the most important, and it is what started it all. So whether you just want to play a blast from the past or get a good introduction to the Assassin's Creed series, I would recommend playing the game in 2021. If you just want to play an open world or see what Assassin's Creed is about, this probably isn't your best option, and you're better off looking at some of the newer games, because if you can't handle the parts of the game that haven't aged well, then you're not going to have a good experience with it. Assassin's Creed Director's Cut is available on the Ubisoft store and Steam store for $20, which may be a little pricey for a game this old, so it may be worth waiting for a sale. And if you're wanting to play the game on the Xbox 360 or PS3, you can pick up a used copy for a few bucks, so I'd say it's quite worth revisiting. That concludes my review on Assassin's Creed. Hopefully we will eventually get a remaster or even a remake sometime in the future, because with some polishing and new paint on it, I'm sure it would be so much fun to play. If you enjoyed the review or found it helpful, I would appreciate it if you left a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and have a great day, Assassins. I don't care how long it takes, Altair, you're going to learn to swim!